Hi, my name is Anthony Karim Higuera. I am part of Professor Buchanan's 11 a.m. MGT 16 Personal Ethics at Work class, section B00. And this is my final project, Another Ethical Dilemma. So the prompt was to interview your parent about an ethical dilemma they have faced and discuss the eight-step model as applied to your parent's ethical dilemma. Include the decisions that they would have made under the six simple models. So first I had to explain to my mom what an ethical dilemma is. So an ethical dilemma is a decision where two or more of your core values are in conflict. As I mentioned, I interviewed my mom for this project, and her contact information is anaiguera613@gmail.com. So I chose to interview my mom. In her 20s, she worked as a secretary in Mexico. She explained that some of her responsibilities were to schedule meetings, schedule employee shifts, processing invoices, expenses, expense reimbursement reports, and some other smaller tasks like keeping the office organized, keeping documents organized, etc. Um, and during the interview, she explained that an ethical dilemma occurred where when a coworker of hers submitted questionable reimbursement expense reports twice. So she explained that the first time this happened, she um, thought it was a common mistake, a miscalculation that has happened multiple times. But the second time this happened, she questioned her coworker about it, and the coworker said that it wasn't that big of a deal and to just do the favor and let her slide. And this is when the ethical dilemma occurred. My mom was conflicted between choosing to stay honest and stay and have integrity and report the situation to her higher up or to remain loyal to her coworker. So in this situation, the two core values or the core values in conflict is integrity and honesty versus loyalty. So plan this to the eight-step model. Um, the eight-step model is step one, gather the facts. Step two, define the ethical issues. Step three, identify the affected parties or the stakeholders. Step four, identify the consequences. Step five, identify obligations. Step six, consider your character integrity. Step seven, uh, think about think creatively about potential actions. And step eight, check your gut. So step one. Step one, gather the facts. The facts are that my mom is responsible to process these expense reports as part of her job. Um, Another fact is the coworker has submitted a false reimbursement request or faulty, I guess, reimbursement report. Approving this could violate company policies and therefore result in either um, the firing of both employees, including my mom, um, or some type of consequences, of course, are going to be taken against my mom for approving those. Um, and overall, reporting the issue could damage a workplace relationship between my mom and a coworker. Step two, define the ethical issues. So the main issues were, is it ethical to approve these expensive, even though my mom knows that they are faulty? Um, and what responsibility does the secretary have when they notice questionable financial reports? And lastly, should loyalty to a coworker override honesty and integrity in this case? Step three, identify all the stakeholders or everyone that's going to be affected by this decision. Of course, my mom's going to be affected, the coworker who submitted these expenses, the supervisors that are relying on these accurate reports, the company as a whole, and possibly it might trickle down to the customers if um, they make, let's say, increase prices because of this inaccurate reimbursement or something, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, everyone in all of these stakeholders are going to be affected either financially, legally, or just like relationally. Um, Step four is to identify the consequences. Um, So if my parent approves the expenses, obviously the coworker is going to benefit from this. Um, my mom runs the risk of being um, punished for this, for approving faulty expense reports, and could even result to her being fired. Um, if she does report the issue, obviously the coworker might be upset. The relationship between my mom and the coworker could be um, damaged, I guess, in this. And obviously workplace tensions will increase, but it also prevent other people to, I guess, contribute to faulty or fraudulent acts. So it will pattern, prevent a pattern of fraudulent acts. Step five, identify the obligations. So my mom has the obligation to the company to uphold the company policy, to report accurate financial reports, accurate reimbursement reports. Um, she has an obligation to be fair to all of her employees, to hold all her employees to the same standards, to the same legal and ethical standards, um, and also an obligation to her own professional integrity. And none of these acts like directly obligate my mom to protect the coworker from the consequences of her actions in this sense. Step six is to consider character and integrity. Some values that are attributed to this situation is obviously transparency, honesty, fairness, accountability, and responsibility. And approving false or inflated expenses do not directly go against, or it does directly go against these values. Step seven is to think creatively about potential actions. So potential actions include approve the expenses, which is obviously the unethical choice, to refuse the to refuse to sign and approve the fraudulent reimbursement reports and report it to a higher up or HR, to privately talk to the coworker and talk about the situation at hand, maybe find out a resolution, understand, um, an understanding, I guess. Um, Ultimately, my mom did talk to the coworker privately about the situation. My mom stated that she had to make it clear to the coworker that it wasn't personal, but it was just part of her duties and responsibilities to report this fraudulent act. Um, and I guess it's kind of similar to Professor Buchanan's class example of his son's friend asking for the finals test questions. It kind of puts the professor and my mom in this case in an awkward situation where they're kind of like forced to either damage a relationship between them or report the fraudulent act, ultimately still or giving into the request to let it go, I guess, in a sense. And I guess it's kind of unfair to everyone else in the in the workplace or in the classroom, I guess, in Miss Professor Buchanan's example. Step eight is to check your gut. My mom said that her gut feeling since the beginning was that approving the expenses was wrong. Um, she felt uncomfortable being a part of something that was dishonest or like probably fraudulent. Her intuition supported reporting the behavior, and that's what she did. Um, okay. So decisions made under the three simple models. Three simple models are utilitarianism, moral principles and duties, and virtue ethics. So under the utilitarianism um, model, which indicates or the decision you want to make the decision that has the greatest positive impact on the greatest amount of people. And in this case, it was to report the issue since not reporting the issue could result in uh, a negative impact on the company, on my parent, on my mom, on on the coworkers, on the employees, on the customers, etc. So overall, the best decision to make in that um, model is to report the act of fraudulent behavior, um, or and the coworker in this case. Um, Second, morals and principles and duties and ethics. In this scenario, you want to follow rules and duties, and my mom's rules and duties were to um, provide accurate and reimbursement reports to the company and follow the procedures of reporting fraudulent behavior, and that's what she did. So in that case, you would also report the fraudulent behavior and the coworker to a higher up. Lastly is virtue and ethics, which is what would a good person do. Um, and in that case as well, you want a good person would want to become or remain honest and have integrity and be fair. And in that sense, they will also report um, the coworker and the fraudulent behavior. Um, but yeah, so most all the three models support the same thing to report the behavior um, and to report the coworker to a higher up. So in conclusion, would my mom change her decision? My mom would not change her decision. She sticks by it. She says that it was the right thing to do. It was her responsibility as a secretary. It was her right to do it as well. Uh, but and recap of ethical situation is so my my mom enjoyed the 8-step model and the 3 simple model. She felt it was like a way to keep thought processing her thought process organized, and it gave her confidence in her decision overall. So overall, it was a great tool to use when making decisions, especially ethical decisions, since they're a bit more complicated. Um, but yeah, and in the end, as I said, my mom did report the coworker to a higher up. She did talk to the coworker privately to tell her it wasn't personal, but her duties and responsibilities. And the coworker ultimately understood that um, she was wrong for putting my mom in that position.